Hi all, I'm Age from Liquid Earth. It's a channel all about video and photography, so if that interests you, subscribe. I'm posting every single week. Today we're doing a quick start guide for the Osmo Mobile 3. So we'll give you an overview of all the features and functions very quickly. So what is a gimbal? Well, a gimbal will essentially iron out all of the shakes and wobbles from your footage. Now most phones are going to come with some kind of inbuilt stabilisation, but that's still difficult to keep the horizon straight if you're hand holding, and if you're moving around a subject or a person up and down different angles on uneven ground, then it's virtually impossible to iron out all of the shakes and bumps. That's where the gimbal comes in handy. So in its default mode, the gimbal is going to stabilise your footage. You can still turn left and right, panning, you can still go up and down, tilting, but it's going to lock the roll axis, so it's going to keep the horizon nice and steady and straight. If you press the trigger, then you've locked all three axes, so now the roll, tilt and pan are all completely locked. Let's start though by balancing the gimbal. So let's turn it off by long pressing the M button, and let's take the phone off with a clamp. First thing to notice is you've got this little red arrow on the bracket here, and all you need to do is make sure that your camera is pointing in the same direction as the red arrow, and then you've got adjustments along the horizontal and along the vertical. So horizontal first, just hold the arm and just make sure that it's nice and steady, and if it isn't, move the phone left and right until it is, and then go to your vertical and do the same thing. So you'll notice that you've got this slider that slides up and down. Let's start roughly in the middle and make sure that's not moving left or right. Once that's holding nice and steady, then your gimbal's balanced. Just check the horizontal and vertical. Once it's balanced, you're going to press the M button till you hear a beep and it's going to turn it on. Now balancing is important because it's going to make sure that you get the full 14-hour life out of the gimbal, or near enough. And also the motors aren't going to be overworking. Double click on the M button and now we're into horizontal view. Once you've done that, then the next thing you want to do is download the Mimo app. Use all the instructions to connect it. Once that's done, the camera is connected to the device and you've got all of the functions on the Mimo app available. So let's take a look around the device. So the first thing to notice, you've got your charging port here. There's also this little USB connection, so you can charge the phone directly from the gimbal, because the gimbal's going to last a hell of a lot longer than your phone. So that's really useful. You've got this little rocker switch on the side. That's your zoom control, so if you press that up and down, you'll zoom in and out of your footage. Notice on your zoom footage you've got these little dots, and they mark where your lenses are. So if you zoom in past the dots, that's now into digital zoom territory. Just be careful, because that's going to take the quality down a little bit of your footage, because it's cropping the image. But you can use that, and you can set the settings and how fast or slow that zoom is inside the Mimo app. And then you've got the trigger, and the trigger has various functions. So in default you can turn, like I said, and you can tilt, but you can't roll. If you click and hold the trigger, everything's locked, so you've locked the whole gimbal along all three axes. If you press the trigger once, then it's going to enter active track mode. So let's just click on here, and now you can see we've got this little green box. Click again and it's going to take the active track off. When you're in active track mode, you can still use the joystick control here, so you can move up and down, left and right, to position the subject exactly where you want in the frame. So let's enable the active track again. So I'm going to press once, see the little green box, that's locked on, and it's focused as well as being locked on to that object or person. And now I can use the rocker switch and I can position that exactly where I want in the frame, and it's going to be locked on, and it will try and keep the subject or person in that position. So that's really useful. If you press twice and hold on the second, it's going to go into sport mode, and sport mode allows you to move the gimbal really fast, so ideal for sports or subjects like cars moving fast, children running, dogs playing, that sort of thing. And then when you release the trigger, it's automatically going to disactivate. Now if you double press the trigger, it's going to re-centralize your gimbal. So if it's out askew a little bit, just double click, and if you triple click, it's going to turn the camera around to the front facing camera. Triple click again and it's going to turn it back again. Then you've got the M button. Now if I press and hold, you'll hear a beep and that puts the camera into standby mode, and if I press and hold, one beep, it's going to spring back to life. If I give it a longer press until I hear 2 beeps, it's going to turn off completely, and again longer press and it's going to turn back on again. And you've got the joystick control, so that's going to move left and right, up and down, and you can control the speed of that in the options on the Mimo app. I would recommend though using your arm to move rather than the joystick, because you get much smoother action if you're just moving your arm very slowly and gently as you're filming. Then you've got the record button, so the little red button, if you press that once whilst in video mode, it's going to start recording. Press it again to stop. If you're in photo mode, it will take a picture. Okay, let's look around some of the other options then. So in the Mimo app, I'm under video at the moment, and at the top you can press this little icon here, and that will allow you to change your frame rate resolution and frames per second. So here I'm in the iPhone and I've got 3 options. I've got 1280, 1080 HD or 3840, which is 4K. And then we can do frames per second. 25 frames per second is Europe and the UK generally. 30 frames per second is North America and Japan generally. Although, to be honest, they're pretty compatible. I use 30 frames per second even though I'm in the UK. It still plays absolutely fine, and I also use that on the TV without any problems. So 30 frames per second, 3840, that's generally a good option. Now it's worth noting, if you've got an Android phone, you may not have all of the options that you have with the iPhone. The iPhone has all of the resolution options that I get with the native app. If your Android doesn't, and that's down to the Android system, then you can still use your native Android app to do your video. All you need to do is make sure that the phone's connected to the Mimo app first of all, then swap to your native app, and it's still going to be stabilizing your footage. Just bear in mind that there may be a few functions of the trigger that won't work in the native app. I often, even with the iPhone, move over to the native app to take my video. So once we're all set up, you just press the record button to start recording your video and press it again to stop recording. Don't forget you can double click on the M button if you want to change to horizontal or vertical. Let's have a look at the photo mode then. In the center there you've got a self timer option. On the right hand side you can choose glamour effects. I don't need it, but who knows if you want to use that. So that smooths out the skin, that sort of thing. And then on the left hand side you can change some of the settings if you wish to, or if you want to and you just want easy recording, just leave it on auto. So let's take a look at the pano mode. In the pano mode there's a little grid icon, and if you press that you've got 3 useful options. The first one is 3x3, so if we just hold the camera, press the record button, I mean you can keep this on a tripod, but I found just hand holding is pretty good. The camera's going to spin into action, it's going to take 9 shots, and then very quickly it's going to stitch those all together for you, creating a nice squarish panorama. Now if we go into the little grid option again and we press the next option down, that's 240. So we do the same thing. I'm going to press, and now it's going to take picture from left to right, and it's going to stitch all of those together again very quickly. And then the final option is the new Clone Me option. So for this, all you do is you press play and then it's going to reposition a frame 3 times and it's going to move the camera. You just jump into those 3 frames, it's going to stitch it together, and you're going to be in that frame 3 times. It's quite a fun little option for you. So here we go, I'm going to press record. And it moves quickly from one to the next. And it stitches together. Obviously I haven't jumped into this picture, but you get the idea. So what else do we have? So let's go and have a look at slow motion. So slow motion again, you've got various options. You might need to switch over again if you're in Android to your native app to use a different resolution if it's not available here. But same as video really, you just press the record button to start your recording in slow motion and press it to stop. Dynazoom is really useful. It's quite a fun effect. I'll show you a little video clip of how I've used it, but essentially what you do is you either walk towards the subject or you walk away from the subject, and if you're walking towards it, you would imagine the background's going to be zooming in a little bit, but it does the opposite and it zooms out. And if you're walking away, the background zooms in, and this is the type of effect you can get. So it's very simple. Once you start, then it's going to ask you to draw a little rectangle around your subject, so you can scroll and draw that, and then literally press start, and depending on the option, walk towards or walk away from your subject. And then you've got hyperlapse and time-lapse options. So let's go into our hyperlapse first of all. So hyperlapse allows you to walk through a scene or a scenario and speed that footage up and create this hyperlapse effect. All you need to do is press start, start moving, press stop when you're finished, and it's going to stitch it together. Let's press record and give you a bit of an idea. I know I'm not moving here, but it's going to start that recording, and then when I press stop, it stitches that together, and you can go into your little play on the bottom left hand side, choose the latest video and see your hyperlapse. Let's show you an example. And then you've got time lapse. So if we press the time lapse option, there's a couple of things to bear in mind with the time lapse. First of all, press this little drop down arrow at the top, and then you've got the interval time, so you can change that from half a second all the way up to 60 seconds. Generally speaking, half a second, 1 second for slow moving subjects, or if you've got fast moving subjects, maybe try 5 seconds or so. But for this example, let's do 1 second, and then you've got duration, so you can scroll along and put whatever duration that you wish. And notice at the top you've got this little indicator that tells you how long the final video output is going to be. And then you're on a tripod normally for this, and again you just press record to start and record to stop. But you've got this path option, so if we press this little path option, you've got these little blue icons that appear, and those are your paths. And how that works is you press the first path once you've positioned, so use your joystick, position where you want, press the first path, and that fix that in place, move using the joystick and go to your second path. You can do up to 4, but you don't have to use all of them. You can go up and down as well. Once you're happy with the paths, you just press record, and now the camera's gonna go to the very first path and work its way through to the last path, and at the very end again it will stitch it together really quickly for you, and you've already got a motion time lapse inbuilt and baked in. And at the top there, notice you've got this little countdown icon, tells you exactly how long you've got left. You can press stop at any time and it will create that time lapse. Press the play and you've got your little time lapse. Obviously I've only got a little mini one at the moment because I only let it go for a few seconds. So that is your hyperlapse and time lapse options. So now we should talk about the different video functions. Apart from the trigger, which we've shown you earlier on, there are a couple of different options. If you press the 3 dots, that's your settings, and then press the central icon, that's your gimbal. And now at the top you notice it says follow. If you click that, you've got various options. So let's show you exactly what they do. If we press tilt locked first of all, so what happens now is I can no longer go up and down, but I can still go left and right, but the tilt axis is locked along with the roll axis. And that's quite useful if you want to keep the horizon straight or you're moving up and down with the footage. Next one we'll go into is your first person view, FPV. So with FPV, that's the only option that unlocks all 3 axes. So now I can go up and down, left and right, and I can roll just like an aeroplane. So you can create some unusual effects by rolling the camera. Let's go back in and change to the final option, which is spin shot. And then with spin shot mode, all you need to do is use your joystick, turn it left or right, and you can roll. Now it doesn't do a full 360 degrees, but you can still get some clever effects using it. And don't forget, double click the M button will re-centralize to horizontal if you want to do the horizontal, and double clicking the trigger to reset the position of the gimbal. So those are all your options. I hope you found the video overview and quick start guide useful. If you did, don't forget subscribe. I really do appreciate your support. Many thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.